Where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to Criminality. Hi, everyone. Marshall. What's up, Marshall? Hi, Carla. Hi, Marissa. What's up, Just Deb? Hi, Crystal. BG. I'm Missing Unsolved Crime. Petonia. True Crime Bank Girl. Elena. Hey, the Rockaways. Hi, Crystal. I think I already said hi to Crystal. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Hi, Yankee Ghost. What's up, Jazz? Hi, Angie Baby. Maligator. I saw that he was live. I didn't know that he was going live when I scheduled this, so yeah, so I guess we're dueling banjos, sweet dude. We're dueling banjos with Bob, but that's okay because I adore him. Or as he says, I adore you. Hey, Tom James, New Wood. What's up, Bella? Laura. Hi, Cool Gamer. What's up, Frank? Delphi Canine is named Grim. Yes, and there was another one named. There was another one named Odin. There's both. There is a dog named Odin, and there is a dog named Grim. Just an FYI. There are both. He just left his chat. He's great. Hey, Strictly Chaos. 2 devices. IBR. Okay, so I think everybody's pretty aware of C-Dub. That's funny. Hi, Kyra. What's up, Kanamara Heather? Kanamara. Wild Light Arts. Happy Hub Day. This intro always gives me chills. It's a good intro. Christine did a great job. So we'll see what happens with Bob. But I'm trying to figure out the court TV situation because I would like to be able to watch it with you guys. But sometimes they don't post things right away. So I don't know. So I have it up on the screen. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that anybody who follows this case knows that there was some more information because the Delphi world is just keeps on giving, keeps on giving. And Lebrato, William Lebrato, who was one of the attorneys for Richard Allen in the interim between Baldwin and Rosie, has done an interview with Barbara McDonald. I was so surprised. So if you guys, Ashley, thank you. Hi, Shelly. So what did old Nick do to piss off Queen Frances? What do you mean? Why do you think he did something to piss her off? Hi, Journey Takes a Trip. So we'll go over, pops to the chat, CTV, was it? Yeah, Court TV is at 8 Eastern. But I don't know. We'll have to see. So I have it up on the live stream, but like I said, they take a while sometimes. It takes some. I'm trying to read you guys and talk. Okay, I can't do that. Obviously. Okay, rewind. So I want to see if we can just find it because it takes them a long time to be able to put stuff up on the street on like YouTube, if they even do. Because I know that there was an interview from last week that didn't end up on YouTube, and it had, I think Bob was on, and they didn't put it on. So yeah, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully we can just get it on the live stream. Other than that, we'll just go through what we do know and the article and the interview from what we have already seen. And then we'll just check and see. I would think that with this one, they would want to put it up pretty quickly, but that doesn't mean anything. So who knows? But I gotta tell you guys the story first. So, I told you guys yesterday that I had to go take I had to take a trip to do some meetings for the kids and stuff. And so on the way, there was a field on the side, and it had wheat in it. So I tried to take a picture so I could show you guys that I'm surrounded by wheat, but it came out grainy, so I can't show you. Sorry, I had to do a little wheat for you. All right, let me bring this up for you guys. I cracked myself up. Freaking wheat. Freaking wheat. Hi, ATS. You just missed my, but wheat. Okay, so let's play it first. We'll play the interview first, and then we'll go. We'll read through, because the interview is done first, and then she says that there's going to be an article that comes out. Plus, the full interview should be on tonight, so we'll do that. I see what you did there. Aha! I don't have any wheat around me, by the way. Okay. Can you guys hear it okay? Did you guys just hear that? Did I hit the sound? Everybody just let me know that you can hear it. Yay. Yay, yay. Wheat tall enough to look like wheat this time of year. Around here, winter wheat looks like grass. True. It is. I just want to make sure you guys can hear. So I just need somebody to give me a thumbs up. Otherwise, I have to redo it. Why is the chat not going? Can you talk slow like Bob? It's hard to listen to both of you at the same time. Oh, shoot. I don't know if I can do that. Bob talks fast, too. That's how Bob and I, that's how we communicate with each other, too. Is he talking slow? You can't hear it. Okay, let's try it again. Let's try it again.
Case focusing on the defense.
Better? Is it better? Hi, hybrid. Inspector Gadget. Hey, Louise. Okay, all good in the hood. Okay, we're gonna play it. Like I said, I know you guys have watched it, but I want to be able to talk. I want to talk to you guys about it, so I'm gonna play it in case anybody hasn't seen it. But then that way we can just kind of go. We can go through it. What's up, Royal Wheat?
Defense attorneys, as prosecutors want to get Richard Allen's defense attorneys held in contempt. These prosecutors say that Allen's newly reappointed attorneys, Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin, have violated.
We did all that, and then it's playing the next video because I apparently just let it play. So let's go back and do that again.
Richard Allen's defense attorneys is held in contempt. These prosecutors say that Allen's newly reappointed attorneys, Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin.
He is in his belief that Richard Allen
Okay, here we go.
Is innocent. Attorneys, as prosecutors want to get Richard Allen's defense attorneys held in contempt. These prosecutors say that Allen's newly reappointed attorneys, Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin, have violated the court's gag order and were grossly negligent for being at fault for crime scene photos being leaked to the public, which the state says has caused irreparable harm to the victims' families. In their motion, prosecutors allege the press release and the 2 occasions of leaked information show a trend by defense counsel of not being completely honest with the court, violating the court's gag order set in place to protect the integrity of the case, and failing to comply with the protective order put in place to protect the discovery in this case. Well, now, we're hearing from one of Richard Allen's former attorneys in a Court TV exclusive interview. Public defender William Lebrato stepped down as counsel earlier this month after the state Supreme Court decision, and he's therefore no longer bound by the gag order. Court TV documentary producer Barbara McDonald.
Okay, so just a quick note. So when Baldwin and Rosie were removed from the case by Judge Gull, they were no longer bound by the gag order either. Just want that. I want to put that out there because there's a lot of people who are like, they broke the gag order. They wanted everything to be done in the public. They didn't, they wanted this, they wanted that. And I just want it to be known, like they were under a gag order when they left, when they were taken off the case. And they didn't do any interviews. They didn't go around telling anybody their thoughts and whatnot on what happened. They stayed and fought to be back on the case. So yeah, then no gag order once you're not on the case. You can't share anything that's attorney-client privilege still. And they were asked to give back the discovery, obviously in October. I don't know I don't remember if she gave them a deadline or not, but October 31st when they were at the hearing. Yeah, he does say, I guess I think that's what Barbara McDonald said, but here we go. Okay, let's go back to it. I just wanted to kind of point that out. They had a prime opportunity if they really wanted to say anything to the public. They weren't bound by a gag order. Hi, Hard Candy.
Donald was the only person that he spoke to, and she is on the couch with me this morning. A wonderful journalist you are, and really, I like to say you are our in-house expert on the Delphi cases. This is something you have researched, written about, done interviews on for many, many years.
Yeah.
So this is really quite a feather in your cap that he's talking exclusively to you, Barbara. Tell us what was the most stunning thing to you that he shared, please.
I think how emphatic he is in his belief that Richard Allen is innocent, not just not guilty, but that he's innocent of these charges and not involved at all, according to Bill Lebrato. That was a bit surprising to me, and I pushed back on that a bit. Like, you're a defense attorney, that's your job, right? To say that. And he said he has handled murder cases. He's handled probably 100 murder cases in his career. And he says he doesn't say that very often. And he's never felt as strongly about a client's innocence as he does in this case.
Wow, Barbara, that says something.
So, and Kelt just made this point in chat, but yes, as you're listening to the conversations with Barbara, and I don't dislike Barbara at all, but I just think it's very interesting. She's actually the one who had the Odin report. So we cannot forget that. She was holding the Odin report that, they supposedly, I don't know, I guess you want to say it's leaked, you want to say it's not leaked, depending on when she got it. I don't know, but she had it in her hand when she was on court TV. It was sitting in front of her. So everything she says about like the Odin stuff, it always intrigues me because I'm like, she's actually seen this paperwork. It's kind of like when we talk about like the defense attorneys and whatnot, that they've actually seen this evidence. She's seen at least that piece of evidence. She knew about, the blood on the tree. She knew about the sticks on the bodies. She's known about that. How long did she know? I don't know, but she did know. How the F did she get that? Yep. Yeah. Yep. So, all right, here we go.
It really does. And the fact that you pushed him too, and you were like, well, you're not just saying your client's not guilty. You actually really believe that he's not guilty. And he even used the word innocent with you, not
innocent.
going a step beyond.
Yes, 100% innocent is what he said.
Wow.
We also talked about a lot of other things connected to the case, including the theory of Odinism that was floated by the original defense team. They've now been reinstated, but they said in some of their filings that they believe that white supremacist members of this Odinistic cult are responsible for the murders. And I asked him about that. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
I thought it was Hocus Pocus. I honestly didn't. I'd never heard of it. And the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one.
That is a huge statement. I about lost it when I heard him say that. I was like, what? I had to go back and listen again. Look, what? The inmates are officially running the asylum. Hi, Monica. I mean, he believes somebody who has seen a lot more discovery than any of us have. I was shocked. I mean, he blatantly says, I'm going to play it again because he says, you have to listen. He says they.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one.
They sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Hey, JB. Yeah, that's how I'm taking it. That's exactly how I'm taking it. This was released today, Hard Candy. Yeah, who is they? I mean, I know he's talking about Odinism, and he's talking about that he thought the whole thing was like hocus pocus, and I don't know, like I literally was like, whoa. I there was like a, I had to like, I was holding my breath. I had to like stop and take a breathe, because I was like, he is legit saying one was a sacrifice and they killed the other one. I know, Teresa, I didn't mean to, but you know, it's just the timing of the day. Well, if we go with what the Franks memorandum stated, then I'm gonna say that I believe that Abby was the one that they believe was sacrificed, and that Libby would be the collateral damage. I don't even. It's so much. It's like I'm all for. I totally believe that everything that was put there at that scene was absolutely intentional. I nobody's going to convince me that anything just fell that way, or that it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. I absolutely believe everything at the scene was intentional. I think that there's so many ways to interpret those things, but I had my biggest issue with the Franks memo when I was talking about this when we were doing the open panel, is if the defense team had written that Franks memorandum like, we believe that these are the people who are responsible for this, and they are practicing Odins, and they left the Odinism signatures or runes or whatever you want to say at the scene, I think it would have come across differently. And then you had the Todd Click statement that we only got half of, and then we get the other half, where Todd says we do not believe it was a sacrificial killing. But we do believe those are the people responsible. So that kind of put me in that mindset, like, okay, maybe it didn't have to do with the Odinism. Maybe it just had to do with like those are the people who did it. But now, like, this is like, it's so frustrating because now he comes out and he's legit saying, well, I think they sacrificed one girl and killed another. Yeah, oh yeah, he knows way more than we do. And we'll get to it because he does say that they did not get to go through everything yet, but that's really like the place that they were leaning to. And you have to put that on with the fact that he's insistent on the whole that he believes Richard Allen is innocent. This is the same thing that the other attorneys were essentially saying. Like, we believe he's innocent. This guy doesn't have to believe he's innocent. What? No, they were the lead investigators, just on a different case. So no. So I think that trying to put them into a different category doesn't make sense. They were the lead investigators. They were investigating Odinism, which brought them into the realm of these murders. They were investigating this group of people already. The cases merge, but they're still lead investigators. I think that's the part that you're not getting. But it's not a cool story. I don't really understand that comment. One last public appearance before witness protection. Oh, shit. Hey, Kelt, great to see you. Are you better? Should Lebrato be in fear for his life? I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, with the whole bloodlust of going back all the way to Diener, this is a lot. Nah, see, that is an argument everyone is trying to make, and it's based on a better story than this guy being arrested. It's hilarious and stupid. All right, well, I'm glad to know where you stand. Not sure why you're making those comments, though. It's not a cool story. The whole thing, none of this is a cool story. And I don't think any of it has to do with being a better story, especially since that's not what people were even pointing at. I literally just said that. I don't think you're actually listening to the live. So I you know, frankly, I'm pretty sure that we get along just fine. I'm not sure. I don't 100% bullshit. Perfect. Can you guys just block him from the chat? I'm fucking done. I'm so tired of this shit. I'm so tired of this shit. I don't know. We have no issue. I don't know why you're trying to come in here and cause one. So you go live on your channel and go tell me to fuck off and all the things that you like to do. I'm not doing it. Yeah, haha, wow. You just fucking called me stupid, Frank. Go. Just go. Block him. I don't even want to fucking talk to him. I'm going to get really fucking mad. Give me 1 second. All right. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not here to fucking argue with people. Okay, I'm gonna stop this for just 1 fucking second, because now I'm a little hot. I don't know why people have to come and tell anybody else that they're stupid. You think something, and it all of a sudden makes you're an idiot. You're looking at I don't do the whole condescending bullshit. I don't fucking like it, and nobody's gonna come in here and talk to me like that. It's my channel. Go live on your own channel and be an asshole. I don't get that. We don't have to have any issues. There's channels that are like created just to be mean to other people and make fun of people. You know, I told you guys this from the beginning. When it comes to the Delphi case, I knew it was going to be I knew there was going to be people who get all pissed off and whatever else, but grow the fuck up. This isn't your life. This isn't your case. We can be right. We can be wrong. We can all just have our own conversations about it and everything be fine. If you don't agree or you don't like me, why are you here? I don't get that. I literally only ever ask for people to be kind to each other, be kind to me, be kind to the mods, express your opinions as nice as you want, but don't come in here and call me fucking stupid. That's it. I'm done with that. That's not going to happen. That's extremely disrespectful and it's extremely rude. I hate the bullshit. I hate conflict. I just want to be able to talk about the case and go over all the details to the different pieces of what is coming out. I didn't fucking make this interview. This isn't my interview. This is me on my channel interpreting what I see in the interview. That's it. But there are people who literally just want to argue because they think it's fun. Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's fun. Coming up with bullshit to argue with people about when we're talking about a case with two dead girls? Give me a fucking break. That's not fun. So, yeah, I'm like, I don't normally get that upset. I'm telling you, but I'm just like, this is just, that's too much. Especially like him and I are really cool. I don't know. And then you're just going to come in here and try to call me stupid? Hi, Sleuth Intuition. It's good to see you. So, yeah. It's not fun. It's just dumb. I don't know why people want to be mean to people. I don't want to be mean to people. I genuinely actually like people. I like learning from people. I like having conversations that are meaningful and put us in a direction where we can figure things out together. I don't have to agree, but I would never go around just calling people stupid. Especially when you're actually supposed to be, we're supposed to be friendly. Whatever. Anyway, hi everybody that just popped in. Sorry, I had to go on a little rant. Why you guys just dropping some super chats? I appreciate that, but I don't get it. I don't get why people just have to be so just mean. Like, you can totally see this completely differently than me. I'm fine with it. Hi, Scotty Skulls. So I don't want you guys being mean to him. I don't want you guys being mean to him. Don't be mean to him, because then you're literally just doing the exact same thing. And that's not what I want. Right now, I'm just mad. So let's go back to this. This is already hard enough to even comprehend and understand and go through trying to wrap your mind around if it's possible, if it's not possible, where does this fall? I mean, it was easy when you had the first defense team. And I'll say this, and this doesn't have anything to do with them. It's easy when you had the first defense team that comes out and makes this big old, Frank's memorandum, and we're like, okay, like, how much what are we doing here? This is kind of what defense teams do. And, like, as things are getting more, like, now we've seen the pictures, we see, some have seen the pictures, you've seen the outlines of the sticks and what happened, and you're like, okay, well, this could be this and could be that. Like, are we talking ourselves out of this? Like, this is where I'm at, and this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about, was because now you have another layer, you have another attorney who comes in and is saying the same thing. Cool story? No, not a cool story. If they're telling the truth, if this is really what is happening, well, fuck, I think that's scary. I do think that's scary. Do I want that to be the case? Absolutely not. Would it be much simpler if we just go, yeah, they've got the right guy and that's how it is? That would be, totally simple. And I was totally for it. The PCA came out, I was like, finally, 5.5 years later, they got their guy. Let's move on. And now every time something happens, there's a little bit more added to this story, and there's a little bit more added to this story. And how we can't ignore that and act like it's not actually there. We can't ignore it and say, like, oh, well, I don't really care what any of these people said because I know I'm right. Like, no, we don't know that. We don't know we're right. So, I wouldn't want to live in Delphi right now. That's for sure. I rescue all the dogs. Hi, everybody that just came in. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for being here. And I'm sorry, I don't normally ever go and get that angry, but I don't like being called stupid for talking about stuff. Do you think it's a coincidence that the prison guard has Odin badges and face tattoos? How do you link guards to the murders? Well, do I think it's a coincidence? I think that it's probably more rampant as we've looked at it than that Odinism is in prisons. So I think that I mean, it's not as surprising. It's surprising that they ever that a warden would ever let them wear patches. Because if you remember when we were going through it to begin with, people were like, no way, there's no warden in the world that's going to let them hear patches or wear patches and do all this stuff. It's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, boom, we get the affidavits and it's like, oh yeah, I do wear patches. The warden let me, and I took them off after the fact. Like, give me 1 second, hold on. Okay, so we get the Frank's memo. I'm going to back it up even before that, because let's be real. Obviously, there was conversations that were had throughout all of social media before anybody really knew anything about this type of stuff. There was always something about this crime scene that people talked about, stating that there was something there, right? We know that there's the whole conversation with the non-secular stuff. Now, I was actually talking about this with Coach Kev yesterday too, and you cannot find that original source of where he says that, and then supposedly it's taken back and it's retracted from the article. So we have the screenshots from the original, and then it's not there anymore. So, but there's always been something to this that people have talked about. I remember back in the day that people were talking about a carving in the tree and a carving on one of the girls. Now, we've learned that that's not necessarily the case, obviously, but there is still something to that whole theory, or whatever you want to call it, or, the rumors that were out there. So then you take it further and you go, okay, now we have this Frank's memo comes out, and everybody's like, and then you go to the next step, and it's like, well, the guards, and it's like, no, the guards wouldn't have that. And then you go, oh shit, well, the guards do have that. Then you have, oh, the warden. Oh yeah, that's totally makes sense that the warden allows them to have that. And then you have, I mean, it's like literally step by step. I mean, how do we just say no? Like, this isn't a possibility. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Hi, Mariah. First, you have to connect Elvis, Brad, Patrick, and Johnny. Then you have to put them at the bridge together. I don't doubt Elvis or Brad confessed. I just think they could have lied. So, I don't even know I don't even know how I feel about all of that, to be honest with you, Sleuthen. I need a Dr. Pepper. Jinx, I do. But I don't even know how I feel about it, because if Brad is at work, let's just say Brad is at work, right? And Patrick and Brad supposedly get in this fight. We'll just go with that whole theory. They get in this fight and so on and so forth. The main purpose behind, I think, that theory was to really push the whole Rod Abrams, Elvis Fields, and Johnny Messer part. Because they also put in the memorandum about Brad and something along the lines of like Charles Manson. Like Charles Manson didn't have to be there for all of these things to happen that he ended up charged with. And they kind of relate that to Brad. This is not me relating it. I'm just going back and kind of paraphrasing how I think of it from the Frank's memo. Now, Elvis supposedly has his phone that sits at his house for 9 hours and has no activity. Rod Abrams comes up with the excuse that he's driving to a hospital that his friend is at, which on the way to the hospital would be Delphi. So I'm almost thinking, like, if it was, and I'm not saying that it was, but I'm thinking if we were looking at that it would be like Rod Abrams, Elvis, and Johnny Messer. Now, there's an interesting thing about Johnny Messer, because he ends up arrested in 2018. And when this Frank's memo came out, his friends and family went on social media, on their own social medias, highly defending him and stating that he had been cleared and having anything to do with the murders. So that makes me go, okay, well, was he arrested based on the fact that they were looking into him to have something to do with it? Like, those are the types of questions I have. So were they actually pushing Johnny? Because we know that they did a ton of different types of busts, drug busts, and, you know, CSAM and so on and so forth. Like, what were those conversations like when they were brought in? Obviously, they talked to Johnny Messer about it. Otherwise, why would anybody in his friends and family circle be thinking anything about it? You know what I mean? They wouldn't have. They'd be like, no, you know, he did his time for something totally different. He was not connected to that, and move on. The Ives thing was way back in the beginning. They scrubbed it almost immediately, but he said it. We didn't make up the strange term non-secular. It definitely came from law enforcement and Robert Ives. So like, if we keep putting all these pieces in there, like, I just don't think it can be ignored, I think, is my issue. Because every time that we try to go, okay, and let's push that back and let's go back to looking at, you know, Richard Allen or anybody in that little sphere of people. I thought he just got arrested for the drugs and for the handgun. So we know that Rod Abrams lies about his alibi. We know that Elvis Field's phone is at home. If we go with what's in the Frank's memo, that's it. Is he really? Because this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. This is a lot to think about. Does it mean that tomorrow, once we sit and we go through all of it and we go, okay, now let's look at this logically, this way, that way, you know, but it's not something, I don't think we can just say, like, let's ignore it and act like it didn't happen. Yeah, cool story, Lebrato. I don't know what the hell you're thinking, Mr. I've seen Discovery. You can't do that. We can't just act like these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. People are wilding out, I guess. I know. Maybe I should have taken the day off. Shit. Hold on. You know what? Let me see if I have it up. Do I have... Give me 1 second. Let me see if I have this up still. It might have to load, but... Keep the wilds out of here. Let's see if it'll load. This thing's gotten so much in it now that I don't think it even wants to work anymore. It's like, yeah, you've put enough info in here to last a lifetime. We're done with you. Even if it was staged as a misdirection, it worked. Untamable. It's a very good point. This is why I'm like, every time it adds a little bit more to the layers. Scotty's logic says reasonable doubt is blowing a sunroof in Gull's courtroom. I see what you did there, Scotty, with the roof. All right, hold on. I don't know. Do you think so, really? Because I just don't think so. I don't think that he would have had to have said anything about it. Odinism, drugs, embezzlement, arson, insurance fraud, CSAM, corruption. They all know each other's dirt. I haven't finished it. I'm going to go back to it. But I wanted to look at this real quick because we were talking about Johnny Messer. I'll go back to it. I'm not done. Let's just go in here. Possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, possession of a controlled substance, possession of a hypodermic syringe, dealing methamphetamine, possession of a methamphetamine, neglect of a dependent, and possession of drug paraphernalia was what he was charged with. So that's Johnny Messer. Okay, we'll go back to the interview. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit for anybody who popped in late.
Case. Wow, Barbara, that says something. It really does. And the fact that you pushed him too, and you were like, well, you're not just saying your client's not guilty. You actually really believe that he's not guilty. And he even used the word innocent with you, not
innocent.
going a step beyond.
Yes, 100% innocent is what he said.
Wow.
We also talked about a lot of other things connected to the case, including the theory of Odinism that was floated by the original defense team. They've now been reinstated, but they said in some of their filings that they believe that white supremacist members of this Odinistic cult are responsible for the murders. And I asked him about that. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
I thought it was Hocus Pocus. I honestly didn't. I'd never heard of it. And the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Some of the people that live in Delphi were very, very brazen about their Odinistic beliefs on their Facebook pages and other social media accounts, including the sergeant who was in charge of keeping Mr. Allen safe in Westville.
You described one of those officers that's mentioned in one of Rosie and Baldwin's filings, Sergeant Jones, who was wearing patches that said "In Odin We Trust" on his Department of Corrections uniform.
Yep.
The judge ordered the warden to make them stop. And then what did you notice?
That Mr. Jones had it tattooed under his right eye. From the best we can tell, it looks a lot like Odin's spear. And he had several tattoos on his forearms, including the interlocking triangles that are on his Facebook post. I got to give credit to Mr. Rosie and Mr. Baldwin that, they picked up on that. We saw him, and, confinement officers at the Allen County Jail aren't even allowed to have facial hair, let alone facial tattoos. I was a little miffed that the warden allowed that, or he even knew what it was.
That was one of the things that surprised me too, is that it was this same guard, according to Bill Lebrato, that had the patch, was told to stop wearing it, and then comes to work with the tattoo under his eye.
Oh.
That he got intentionally in October, right after he was told he could no longer wear the patches. It almost seems like there is rampant Odinism tied into this case. I think at this point, I don't think that we can deny that there is Odinism tied into the case. Now, I think the bigger question is there Odinism tied into the crime? So then I guess I also have the question about the warden. Like, the warden knows all about this and is okay with it. Does he practice anything? You get the FBI for attorneys saying that the same thing with receipts to back it up. It's the only thing that makes sense in this case and why it's so secretive. We know that even if the non-secular was retracted, let's not forget this. If the non-secular is retracted and it was not said, so even if you take it away, Robert Ives still said there is 3 distinct signatures at the crime. So you have to figure out how to tie those signatures to somebody like Richard Allen also, which it doesn't mean, I think Shelley said this earlier, even if there is something else to it, doesn't mean that he's not a part of something he didn't know he was a part of. I'm not sold there yet, but this is just like overwhelmingly like, why does it just keeps going. Okay, let's keep going. No, let's us keep going now.
Barbara, as I'm watching that, my jaw dropped. Something else that's interesting that you asked him about, when he's telling you he believes in that legal theory, he wasn't the first attorney to put it forward. As you know, it was the first set of defense attorneys who are now back currently Richard Allen's defense attorneys. And as we know, attorneys don't always agree on a legal theory in a case. To me, that really says something, that there may be some substantive value in it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and he said that, their defense strategy would have been probably a little bit different than Rosie and Baldwin, but not too different. They were also preparing a Frank's memo for a Frank's hearing, alleging that there were, problems with the information that was used to obtain the search warrant for Richard Allen's home. So it sounds like they were following a similar path, if not, not identical, but a similar path for sure.
Close, right? With the Odinism theory being at the heart, that someone else carried this out and that this brutal killing of those beautiful children was done by someone practicing Odinism.
Exactly, and that's what, I think when that first Odin memo dropped, we were all like, Odinism, what is that, right? And I think for a lot of people, it was that there's no way that could be true. And this is somebody who looked into it, who at first said, no, I don't buy that either. But then after getting into the case, he had it for 79 days as lead counsel, and he says there's something there.
Wow. Barbara, I know that obviously as an attorney, any communications he had with Richard Allen, as you know, are privileged, but he can certainly describe, how he was doing in jail or what he saw. The appearance, I know, has been so stunning to so many people, the dramatic weight loss. Tell us what he shared with you about that.
He said that he is improving some mentally and physically, but that it is still very difficult for him. He dropped from 206 pounds at his arrest to about 122 pounds at his lowest. He says he's still probably in the 130 to 140 range, so definitely much lower than what he had been. He described him as calm, very soft-spoken, very engaged in his defense, and very kind and appreciative to the people working on his defense.
Wow. It sounds like even though there was so much disruption and we saw such a bitter legal battle playing out all the way up to the state Supreme Court, you were there, watching things. Even though that all happened, it seems that there was so much civility among these lawyers who were appointed for a brief time and then have left. It seems like there's no animosity, is there, between them and the original attorneys? Yeah,
he had high praise. He said if there's anything he can do to benefit them and their case, he's happy to take part in that. He feels that Richard Allen is in very capable hands, even though he would have liked to have stayed on the case. He said it's very rare that you get a high-profile case where you really believe your client is innocent, and that's where he was. But he says, he absolutely is willing to do whatever he can. I know that, legality-wise, it's a little dicey now at this point, but he wants to see Richard Allen get a fair trial. And he also believes that Judge Fran Gull is the secret to that fair trial. He thinks.
Okay, so let's dissect a little bit of this and what she's saying here. She talks about that he says he would have liked to have stayed on the case. Like, it's obviously a high-profile case, and that he would want to be on the case. So it makes sense now when we go back and look at the comments that Kara was saying, where they were like, hey, you're not his attorneys, but I don't know. I mean, it still doesn't make, it makes more sense, but it still doesn't really, I don't know why they wouldn't work together, but they wanted to stay on the case. So and that's the biggest thing that people say about like Baldwin and Rosie, is it's a high profile case. Of course they want to stay on it. Doesn't mean that they actually believe he's innocent. But then we have the other version where you got this guy now saying, I think he's innocent. And then you got the old attorneys, or the now back attorneys, saying he's innocent. Not that he's not guilty, but that he's innocent. And then he talks about Judge Frangel and how he thinks that she's the person that's going to be able to keep this trial fair. Well, he's going to, you guys have to think about this. He is going to have to try cases in front of Judge Frangel. Like, that's not going to go away. He can't just be like, yeah, no, I think that she totally should be kicked off this case and that she's totally biased and so on and so forth. It's not going to happen. He's just not going to do that. But then you have to ask yourself, does it, if we don't believe that, then do we believe anything else? And it's a fair question.
I think she's the right judge for this case.
And now she's been appointed is it the chief judge in her
Yes.
division, Barbara? Wow, so, which is a huge nod from her colleagues. I mean, that must say so much about her.
He said she's one of the most qualified judges he's ever worked with. He's been arguing before her for 2 decades or more, and says she's absolutely the judge who's going to ensure that Richard Allen gets a fair trial, which is what he says he wants.
Yes, and he certainly has that right, as you know. Barbara McDonald, I can't wait to see all of your interview. Thank you for the
Closing
preview.
arguments.
Yes.
Yep. And then there's also going to be a story going up on courttv.com with some more
Beautiful.
information from my talks with him.
Beautiful. You've been doing a great job with the writings that you put up on our website and all the information you are sharing, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Julie.
And again, a big reminder, you can watch all of Barbara's exclusive interview with Richard Allen's former court-appointed attorney, William Lebrato.
I'm just over here just talking away, and here I am, freaking muted. Yes, I am. I probably said some extremely profound things, and you guys didn't hear them, and now I don't remember what the hell they were. My life, I swear. Every time. It never fails me. I was saying something. It was probably much better when I said it the first time, but I was saying something along the lines of, it's supposed to be on at 7 Central, which is in about 7 minutes my time. So we're going to see if we can stream it on, through Court TV. I did. I totally just solved the whole case, and I was muted, and now I'll never be able to tell you guys what happened. Ah, jeez. It's either, hybrid. That's also a possibility at times. And then I was saying, well, I want to go through this article because this is kind of what they did. They kind of set the stage for this whole thing. They did this little, interview. They show a couple clips of the interview with Lebrato, and then they say, okay, we're going to put this article, and then we're going to show you the TV. Oh, thank you, Charmaine. You like that I do it on mute? Gosh, what an idiot I am. Is Rick innocent? Why is he... Okay, if Rick is innocent, why was he going ahead with the Franks to get rid of the search items found? I'd be screaming from the roofs that nothing was found. Well, we were kind of talking about this the other day too, and there's definitely motions that are filed on both sides that, in my opinion, I think are very standard. No matter who the defense attorney is, I think you're going to try to get stuff from the search warrant thrown out. It's just like best practice, and that's why I was like yesterday, like the lawyers are just kind of being lawyers. Now, do I agree with what each side is doing? No, not necessarily. But I think they're just kind of being lawyers. And I think that trying to get the search warrant thrown out is kind of what they do. Now, if you take it to the next level, though, and the exhibits that were attached to the Franks memo, because we have not seen those. If Liggett is in there stating that this witness said this when that witness didn't actually say that, or, you know, we also know that there's the whole weird timing, but we think that Kathy Allen gave the verbal okay to go search. I mean, there are things that if they can prove it in the courtroom, in a hearing, if they were ever allowed to freaking have a hearing on anything, if they could show that Liggett lied, I think that would be a bigger deal. But for her just to say, nope, Liggett didn't lie. So then are we assuming that every exhibit they put with that Franks memo doesn't actually say those things that the witness does say? Like, or I'm just going to use this as an example. The witness does say muddy and bloody. And you got the defense team who's like, this witness doesn't say that, and I'm going to attach where this witness doesn't say it, and yet here the witness said it. Like, that doesn't make sense. There's so many of those things that just don't make sense to me. So I think that, yes, I think that the defense team is going to try to get rid of search warrants. I think that's just kind of their basic, this is what we're going to do. Now, I think they probably had a very good leg to stand on, but we won't know because there's no hearing and nothing is going to be told to us outside of that. We don't get to see the exhibits. All right. Hi, everybody that just popped in. Technically, all Odinists are amateurs. Not sure how you become a professional. Posting daily proverbs and practicing rune writing and reading. Maybe it's just like a length of time. Hi, Bob. Is Luthi here too? Hey, Boston. Sounds like my move. Let's say Lebrato thought RA was guilty. It would be professional suicide to come out in the middle of everything and say, yes, I think he's guilty. That is silly. I absolutely agree with you. But he doesn't have to come out and say anything, I think, is the bigger part. We're not seeing Scremin talking yet, but he doesn't, I don't think, why would he have to go out and say anything? But I don't disagree with you. It would be silly. He's not going to do an interview and be like, oh yeah, I totally think that guy did it. I mean, he's not. It's just like, I get that. He's not. I'm just checking chat real quick. I answer this, actually, Sleuth Intuition. I answer this and I say, I don't even let my mother-in-law babysit my kids. So regardless whether he's innocent or guilty, he's not watching my kids. And I've known her for a really long time and I still don't let her. Hi, 4 Pitbulls. Okay. So let's take a look through this. Let me go pop back over here. Just want to make sure that I was hoping that we would be able to get it streamed, but I don't think they're going to do it live. But it is what it is. So we're just going to read straight through this, and then we'll double check and see if there's anything up from the full interview. Indiana Supreme Court heard oral arguments for and against reinstating Richard Allen's original defense team. Allen's then defense attorney, Bill Lebrato, sat in the courtroom texting Allen's wife, Kathy. I thought this was interesting, too. I actually didn't know he was there. And that he was actually the one texting Kathy. When I found out that the other attorneys were reinstated, I let her know right away. He tells me by phone the day after the Supreme Court hearing and swift ruling on January 18th. She really wanted to be there. I wasn't completely surprised by yesterday. I didn't really like the way it happened, he says. Lebrato, like the general public, had to apply for a ticket to be let into the hearing in the courtroom inside Indiana State Capitol. He said that the tickets given to the Indiana Public Defender Council, which he is a member of, were given to other attorneys. Could you imagine? He's actually the attorney on the case at that time, and they won't give him a ticket. They gave it to other people. The High Court's decision came less than 4 hours after the hearing wrapped. Okay, so the me here is Barbara McDonald, and then obviously Lebrato. Can you share with me how Kathy responded to the court's ruling? Lebrato says she didn't comment about the other attorneys being reinstated. She just expressed her gratitude to me, Robert Scrumman, and Susie. Susie's the one who wrote the affidavit that got sealed like right away after the visit to Wabash. Lebrato is referring to his co-counsel. Did you ever talk with Richard Allen about his desire to reinstate Rosie and Baldwin? Lebrato says, we never really addressed who he wanted as his attorneys, nor did he ever say, I don't want you guys, I want my old lawyers, nor did he ever say, I don't want my old lawyers, I want you guys. I know that that was probably Mr. Allen's wishes on October 11th, but I can't say that that remained the same up until yesterday. Bob said that might have been him. Bobby took Lebrato's ticket. No, you didn't. You guys be nice. You guys better be nice and chat to each other. The mods will delete any comment that you guys are being mean to each other. Especially to people who I appreciate being here, and just because you don't like them. Please don't do that. Okay. Lebrato is referencing a typed letter dated October 11th, given to Special Judge Fran Gull. It was signed by Richard Allen and urged Gull not to take action against his appointed public defenders, Rosie and Baldwin. The attorneys had been notified by Gull the day before to stop working on the case after the leak of sensitive crime scene photos, and a hearing was then set for October 19th in Gull's Allen County courtroom. A contentious debate in Gull's chambers hours before that hearing ended with Rosie and Baldwin off the case and set up the legal battle that ended in the Supreme Court. He didn't write the letter. Mr. Rosie prepared, these are in quotes, so he didn't write the letter. Mr. Rosie prepared the letter and had Mr. Allen sign. It is my understanding it was typed, and I'm assuming Mr. Allen doesn't have access to a computer or a typewriter in the Department of Corrections. We talked about that too. He doesn't. Lebrato says he thinks that when Allen found out that his attorneys would be off his case, he may not have had the understanding or legal concepts to know he would automatically be appointed other public defenders. He may have been thinking that he and his wife were going to have to hire private attorneys, or he wasn't going to have representation. I don't know. So this is all his speculation. Is it on YouTube though, or is it on? Oh, here we are. Let me see.
Five years for Richard Allen to be arrested. This was a guy who spoke with someone, gave a statement like the day of or the day after, saying he was there. And that in part became the basis for what they did like 5 years later in investigating him and executing a search warrant of his home. All things that could have been done easily within the first month of this investigation. He said he was there. And they had some video image of the person who was there that they were able to retrieve. So at least at that point, they're like, oh, all right, we've got a video of the killer. Well, who was there that day, guys? I mean, it didn't happen. I can't believe it. But he's been arrested. Now, obviously, he says he's completely innocent and did not do this. And he gets the presumption of innocence. And his original attorneys, who are fighting tooth and nail on this one and also believe in his innocence, are back on the case, Baldwin and Rosie. These two guys have been very aggressive in their defense of Richard Allen. Not a popular position to be in, right? This is the highest profile case, went unsolved for years, horrific murder, and you're representing the accused killer. You're not going to be popular, but they want in on this case. They believe in his innocence. So that's a significant factor in all of this, because this isn't going to be one of those cases where the defense rolls over. And we've had a few trials like that here on Court TV, where the evidence is overwhelming and, the defense does their thing, but doesn't really do their thing. Completely different in this case. So tonight we have a Court TV exclusive because, as you know, there have been different lawyers representing Richard Allen at different times. And one of them, William Lebrato, who was one of the replacement lawyers, is now off the case, but spoke exclusively with Court TV. And joining me in studio, senior producer of Court TV documentaries, Barbara McDonald, who did that interview. Barbara, great to see you. How did this all come about?
I have reached out to him before asking for an interview. He was under the gag order while he was on the case. As soon as that Supreme Court decision came down, I reached out again. He said, yeah, I want to talk now. So we set it up. I flew up to Fort Wayne and we sat down and talked.
So big picture, after sitting down and speaking with him, what was your biggest takeaway from the whole thing?
How I think bothered he is by this case and the treatment that Richard Allen is receiving while he's being held in a maximum security prison pending trial, the role of potential odious in this case, and he believes that Richard Allen is innocent.
Wow. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get to that interview. The folks at home like, Vinny, will you play the interview? Yes, we will. Let's take a listen. Now, this is the part.
Vinny, play the interview.
Talking about his innocence,
Yes.
right? And folks at home know the difference in our legal world between believing your client's innocent and believing that the other side doesn't have enough evidence to prove that he's guilty. Those are two different things. Two different things. He believes he's innocent. Let's take a listen.
Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin issued a press release not too long into their getting the case, and they said they believe that Richard Allen is innocent. Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. I don't think Mr. Allen had anything to do with this. I honestly don't. Now, what I believe, nobody cares. My job would have been to convince 12 jurors of that.
You're a defense attorney, so that's your job to sort of say your client is innocent. Is that something you say about all your clients?
No, and rarely do I believe it. But in this particular case, I believe it 100%.
And what convinced you?
Conversations with him, the fact that he lived in this very small community that's not much bigger than a high school. He worked at the CVS in Delphi. The police sketches are hung up in the CVS. The bridge guy picture is in the CVS. And in 5.5 years, no one comes into that store and says that kind of looks like you. And I don't know if this has any relevance, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but an arrest was made 27 days before a sheriff election. Just my humble opinion that played some kind of role in his arrest. And he hadn't moved. He hadn't changed his story. No facts or evidence have changed to my knowledge that brought law enforcement back to him 5.5 years later. He has no criminal record. They raided his house, took all of his social media, no ties to this Odinist cult whatsoever. He didn't even know that there was Odinist in Delphi. He had never heard of it. Just a lot of things don't make sense.
Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin also said that that there's no electronic evidence linking him to the crime scene or the girls, and that there's no DNA of his at the scene. Is that accurate?
Yes. As far as I can tell, yes.
All right, we're going to bring in some more guests to join me and Barbara here.
Todd, Chris Todd, in the house.
Author of Forest for the Trees, a book about the Delphi murders. Investigative producer Chris Todd, and in Salt Lake City, Utah, retired police
Mike
commander,
King,
religious cult expert, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, and the author of the book Deceived: An Investigation into Zion Society Cult, Mike King is here.
This will be interesting.
Barbara, I'll start with Barbara, though. I'm going to ask her a quick question. The fact here that you're asking him about, he believes in the innocence. What was the sense you're getting in the room with him?
That he felt that. He was very sincere, I thought. His answers were careful and deliberate, but I thought he was sincere and he believed what he was saying.
Chris Todd, you investigated this thing. One of the things that he points out, for 5 years, the pictures of the sketches of the killer, that don't look alike, but that's another story, right? The picture of the actual video grab are in the CVS where this guy's working, and no one's putting 2 and 2 together. What are your thoughts about why the arrest of Richard Allen in that time frame?
Well, we've talked about this before, and I don't believe Richard Allen is Bridge Guy. And I believe that's what we're all talking about here, is how would no one recognize him, his voice, his body type, his height? How would nobody know that it's him? I don't believe he is Bridge Guy. I've stated who I believe that is. I'm not going to say it this second, but I do believe Richard Allen is involved. I just don't think he's on the bridge.
And that gets us to a whole nother place, right? That he's not alone in doing all of this. All right, Mike King. Here's the evidence, right? Because he's arrested because they believe they have evidence in the case. It's not like, oh, it's just, hey, he's at CVS, let's get that guy. Richard Allen told police he was on the trail the day Abby and Libby went missing. Richard Allen's description of the clothing he was wearing that day matches the clothing of the suspect in the video on the victim's phone. A vehicle resembling Allen's 2016 Ford Focus was observed near the trail around 1:30. And the Indiana State Police Lab determined an unspent round found near the victim's bodies had been cycled through Richard Allen's Sig Sauer model P226, which apparently he kept for all those years, according to prosecutors. Your thoughts about the strength of that case based on that evidence?
I think that it really is important and really strong, Vinny. I mean, you got to take into account, how can all these things happen? And we've talked about circumstantial evidence in these kinds of cases before. And I don't know whether Richard Allen's responsible for this or not, but I do know that you just named 5 things that are incredibly coincidental that he would happen to be in the same place at the same time. And when we get to see the ballistics on this unspent round that was cycled through, I don't know if that means that it's an artifact of scraping on the sides of the cartridge itself that is the artifact. If there was an actual attempt to fire that bullet and there's indentations on the firing pin, but it was a misfire, it's going to be really important when that thing comes into court and there are both sides shouting out at the top of their lungs that is that kind of a comparison is of no value, and others saying it absolutely is. But if you've got markings that gun is the only gun on the earth that will make, and those end up on those cartridges that are found next to the bodies, that's incredibly powerful evidence.
Now, I want to put this up on the screen because there is one other piece of evidence I think is something that needs to be explained. On April 3rd, 2023, Richard Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen, and this is while he's locked up. In that phone call, Richard Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard Allen admits that he committed the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy Allen, ends the phone call abruptly. Barbara McDonald, what did William Lebrato have to say about that?
He said he has a lot of questions about it, that his understanding is it was basically one sentence that Richard spoke, this confession, so not a lot of detail provided in that confession. And he says that Richard Allen was receiving medication while he's in prison, both shots and pills. He doesn't know what those medications were. He tried to find out. And so he has a lot of questions about what all was going on. He also says false confessions are a real thing, especially when people are subjected to very harsh prison conditions.
Yeah, the one thing about the false confession in this case, though, that we've seen him here on Court TV, but it's usually under an interrogation scenario. This is a call to his wife. Mike King, your thoughts on that? Because this is going to be significant. No one has heard this thing outside of investigators, and I presume maybe at some point the defense will hear it. What are your thoughts about this confession, and what would be important about the
As much as I
circumstances
appreciate
for you
them having these
surrounding
guys on, I really want to just listen to the
I
interview with
think
Lebrato.
that the most important thing that comes out of this is it wasn't one confession. By every account that I've read and other testimony I've heard on different media sources, is that it was at least 5 times, maybe 6 times, that he made these confessions or admissions that he was the guy. And I think that's going to be really difficult to overcome, Vinny. You can say, okay, he might have been having a problem just before he started eating evidence and having all of this bizarre behavior. So I want to know the timing of those other 4 or 5 calls, not only just to his wife, but we also know that one of those calls was to his mother, where he explained that he was the guy.
Chris Todd, what is it about the scene, the evidence, the story, the case that makes you believe it's more than one person?
For a long time, I thought it was just one person, and until everything started to fall into place, that they arrested Richard Allen. And like I said before, the word on the street is that he had bragged about being involved in the murders, and that's how they were tipped off to him. So I always had a hunch there were possibly 2 people involved, and so I believe that one person is waiting on the property and the other person holds the girls at gunpoint, and they meet together down by the creek, and they go to a location that is not, I believe, is not the crime scene where the bodies were found.
All right, our guests are staying with us. We'll continue with more of our Court TV exclusive interview with Richard Allen's former attorney who was on the case and has a lot to say on this. We're going to talk about Odinism. Odinism, that is such a huge theme in all of this. Plus, coming up next hour. In Oakland County, Michigan, high drive.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. Why that plays? I think of T's book review. Every time I see him, I think of T's. I'll be very. So I know that there's tons of people who don't like Chris Todd, and obviously I think a lot of people know Chris Todd knows a lot of people don't like him. He's been very nice to me in every communication we have had since he came on the show, and so I know that he's definitely got his quirks and his way of things. But you know, if you guys know anything about me yet, kindness goes a really long way, whether I agree with what you say or don't say. Like, I firmly believe that there's a greater thing in being kind to people, whether you agree with them or not, than just being a complete asshole. So, and this, I try to have the chat be that way, and I don't want people to feel like they can't come in here and chat because of other people that are in here. So just know that I get it, but hopefully they just get back to playing the actual interview here soon. We'll stop that for a second. Yeah, just be kind. I'm telling you, if you guys just go out and try to just be kind to people that you're not normally kind to, what a different world you will live in. Okay, so the royal we. I think it's the same general consensus that's really kind of been out there now for a couple of months. It's the speculation on that it was his son-in-law Paulo. I don't have any specifics, and I don't have anything to back that up. I know if you guys are subscribed to the channel Unsolved Crimes. No. Oh my gosh, why is I always get it backwards? You know what I'm talking about? Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. Gosh darn it. It's like a tongue twister. She does a really good video on the information about Paulo and whether it could it be, and what would it mean if he was. Unsolved Crimes. I know, it's like a tongue twister though, honeybee. It's like In fact, nobody knows all the evidence they have one way or the other. Right. It's all just information. We're all getting bits and pieces of information, and we're taking it for what we think it might mean. And that's based on our own, our own thoughts, our own history, our own. Hi, JC Marty. Yeah, it's a rumor. It's a rumor that's been out there now. Is there anything to back that up? Not that I'm aware of. I've not seen anything to back it up. Is it possible? I mean, of course. I think we all know at this point anything in here is possible. So I'm gonna take that down. Just remember that show, New York Undercover. That's TNT. You're silly. Wait, she did a video on what? On Paulo. Would one of the wrenches mind grabbing that video and putting it in here, or just grabbing her channel and dropping it in here? Because I love her channel anyway. She's so thorough. She does not claim it to be a factual, has to be basis. It's just a possibility, and this is what it would be. New York Undercover was the shit. I just don't know I don't know what's going to happen to this stream if I'm playing all these commercials with all these other shows. So I just took it down. So hopefully it's not an issue. If this live ends up coming down and I have to edit that out, then so be it. Meanwhile, someone I respect claims motorbike tire prints from near Weber's shed were matched to tire prints in RA's garage during the 2022 search. I will tell you, I cannot find the Allens owning a motorcycle. I can't find them owning a motorcycle at all, ever. Now, we know that her brother, Kathy's brother, had passed away from complications after a motorcycle accident. So do they have his motorcycle? Was that his motorcycle cover? I don't even know if it ultimately is going to play into anything. I've got nothing that says it will. Hi, Foxfire. It's Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. Hybrid Pisces grabbed it. So, yeah, Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. She's just badass. Okay, here we go. Let's see what Benny has to say.
It was the Odinist. What's an Odinist? Like, before I started covering this case,
Hey, Amy and Susie, I'll check it out. Thank you.
Never heard of Odinism. And apparently it's, depending upon who you ask, it's ancient Norse religion, predates Christianity, where they, Odin is the god, but it's sort of been hijacked by white nationalists. So it has this sort of evil spin-off where it's a legit religion on the one hand by some people, and then sort of hijacked on the other hand by others. So that's what they're saying. This was a ritualistic killing, like a sacrifice. Sick stuff. So Barbara McDonald, Court TV senior producer in a Court TV exclusive, sat down with Richard Allen's former attorney, his replacement counsel, William Lebrato. And here's what he had to say about Odinism.
You had not heard of Odinism when it first was floated with regard to this case?
I honestly thought, I was like, no disrespect to Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rosie, because they're excellent lawyers. I thought it was Hocus Pocus. I honestly didn't. I'd never heard of it. And the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Some of the people that live in Delphi were very brazen about their Odinistic beliefs on their Facebook pages and other social media accounts, including the sergeant who was in charge of keeping Mr. Allen safe in Westville. It's real. Just the other day, Robert and I were going to lunch, and we saw a Jeep Wrangler right here in Fort Wayne with a spare tire on the back, and the cover said Odin, and it had all Odin spears like around on the cover. I would have never known what that meant and outside of this case. So Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rosie were onto something right away.
You described one of those officers that's mentioned in one of Rosie and Baldwin's filings, Sergeant Jones, who was wearing patches that said "In Odin We Trust" on his Department of Corrections uniform.
Yep.
The judge ordered the warden to make them stop. And then what did you notice?
That Mr. Jones had a tattooed under his right eye. From the best we can tell, it looks a lot like Odin's spear. And he had several tattoos on his forearms, including the interlocking triangles that are on his Facebook post. I got to give credit to Mr. Rosie and Mr. Baldwin that, they picked up on that. We saw him, and, confinement officers at the Allen County Jail aren't even allowed to have facial hair, let alone facial tattoos. I was a little miffed that the warden allowed that, or, he even knew what it was.
He looks a little scared talking about Odinism. I mean,
I don't know if he was scared. I know that he was being very careful with his words. As an attorney, he wanted to be sure that what he said was what he meant. But yeah, I think he probably does feel a little intimidation by it. He said it's a scary thing. And once you begin to become aware of it and you see it more often, he might not have known what that tattoo was had this issue not already been raised.
so the concept of the Odinist, I mean, there was a task force trying to solve this case, and this isn't like the defense just scraped this up. It
Right.
came from the task force. There was a faction of the task force that was going down this road and believed in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that the allegation from all these defense attorneys is they didn't do a very good job of ruling it in or out, and that there were people who had ties to Odinism who should have been checked out further and weren't.
All right, let's bring back in our guest, Chris Todd, investigative producer Mike King, religious cult expert. Chris, I'll begin with you. I get back to this conversation about Odinism. It's going to be a part of this trial. There is no doubt in my mind. The defense has said so much. There was part of the task force was going down this road. Did you come across anything associated with this? Was it on the radar?
Very early on, loosely, it was talked about, like kind of rumor mill, but I think this Odin stuff is kind of like Nazism, to be honest. And if you really look at that logo, I see like a swastika almost inside there. So I'm just saying, like, I think it's, to quote the prosecutor, I think it's colorful. And I think it's an interesting way for these defense attorneys to talk about this. But we're looking around all again when we had somebody right in front of us very early on. And then we get to Richard Allen many years later. And it's perplexing. I don't have all the answers, but that's my quick thought on the Odin thing.
Now, Mike King, I want to put this back up on the screen, because when you and I first heard about this, we were skeptical. And then the state had to respond to the allegation made by the defense, and they said that Sergeant Redacted and Sergeant Redacted have worn patches that refer to Odinism. These are the people watching Richard Allen. Those patches reflect the sergeant's religious beliefs and are not associated with any kind of cult. Sergeant Redacted did not remove the patches from his vest until ordered to do so by command. And then apparently got the tattoo. All right, so Mike King, where do you see the line between religion and cult? Because I think that's significant here, because if someone's practicing the religion, they're practicing their religion. They might believe something different than we do, or something different than their neighbor believes. Everyone's entitled to practice whatever religion they want. But if you're getting into the world of cult, that raises a red flag, and to me raises a greater possibility of something bizarre, like a ritualistic sacrifice. But first, you got to cross the line into it being a cult. So how do you see that issue?
You know, as Barbara interviewed, I thought it was so interesting that the message that came across is every Odinist is committing murders out there, which we've had guests on the show with us here, Vinny, that you've brought in that are followers of this Odinist ideology, and they absolutely repel that idea and say, no, it's a very peaceful kind of a group of people. Every cult I've ever looked at boils down to whether it is coercive in nature or not. And so when you think about mainstream religion and the openness of mainstream religion, sometimes we could argue they're closed in mainstream religion. And then you look at cults, there are cults that probably are not very harmful, like the cults of people that follow the Dallas Cowboys. But then when you get into the ideology that's coercive, and there's coercive mind control, and there is all kinds of conspiracy attached to it, that's the kind of cult that we really worry about and that we think about when we look at cases like this. So what we have to do is we have to separate the two first and foremost and figure out if it's coercive. In my experience, after looking at hundreds and hundreds of ritual crime allegations, was that there are predators who will use religion to be a power guise, to control a victim, to get them to believe that if they don't remain quiet, something will happen mysteriously, mystically, or religiously. And it's a way to control their victim and continue to be a predator. But I go back to this idea that if this happened, and if it was a group of Odinists, that is one magnificent conspiracy to put all of this together. It is one magnificent conspiracy to get all these people that had to have been involved, that were out burning things in the woods and putting sticks on people, to get them all to remain quiet. And I guess that's the problem I have, Vinny, from an investigative standpoint.
Let me follow up really quickly on this. For it to be a cult, does there have to be like a leader or like leaders that are coercing the masses to do these things?
In most cults, you're going to see one person that all people look to, or maybe one or two that all look to, and they are the final rule. They are the one that makes the decision. And we saw this in cases that I investigated, where you have the leader who comes up with these spiritually wacky ideas, but then you have the followers who want to be the arm of the leader and go out and act it out. But in those kinds of circumstances, Vinny, there are too many tongues that know about what happened, and I just don't believe it remains as quiet as this has remained.
All right, so let me ask Barbara McDonald here on set with me. Barbara, is there any indication at this point, with this allegation of this Odinistic society or group or whatever, that there's a leader?
Not that I've heard of. I mean, there were some names that were listed in one of the filings from Bradley Rosie and Andrew Baldwin,
But not like a hierarchy, like, okay, this is the man or woman that is sort of leading our group and is saying, hey, it's time for a sacrifice or something like that.
Yeah, I think there probably is somebody filling that role, but that hasn't really been clearly defined. And how serious is this group, if this is in fact a group? Are they people sort of playing this on weekends, or is this something they're taking very seriously?
Chris, Todd, let me ask you, in your investigations out there, did you come across any groups per se, whether it was like, you know, a bunch of guys that got together, or the people that you think could have been involved that had friends or were, you know, interacting with others or were close to other people, anything like that?
Well, with respect to this case in particular, or in general?
In general, in that area when you were out there.
I mean, there's been talk. I know a couple of things about Richard Allen that I'm not going to say today. I'm getting a lot of information about him, about another connection to a hunter out there. And people do think that there were multiple people involved in either placing these girls there. So it is possible that there's other people in this cover-up. So I'm not ruling out this larger conspiracy, but I just don't have all the facts to really hone in on that right now.
Appreciate that. All right, everyone stay where you are. When we come back, we're going to talk about the issue that William Lebrato is probably most concerned about at this point in preparing, or when he was the attorney, in preparing for a murder trial, which is the treatment of Richard Allen while waiting for his trial.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see?
Okay, let me take this down again, and we'll bring it back up when they come back. So, it's tough because like Mike King does have a history in when he was in law enforcement where he did work on taking down cults. I mean, it's not far fetched to have his opinion. I think Mike King actually would be a perfect person to talk to about anything to do with cults. Now, I think that the distinction here is it a cult? I mean, because I don't think it is. It's a group. It's a gang. It's a religion, and then it's a fringe of that religion if that was something that was involved. Hi, Deets. Hey, that girl, James. So I don't think that looking at it like it's a cult is probably the right thing, even though I think that his opinion would matter. And so going back to like what we were talking about a little earlier too is if these other people that have been speculated and named to possibly be involved, the Rod Abrams, the Johnny Messer, the Elvis Fields, they're not necessarily part of anything at that point. Johnny Messer was part of the Vinlanders, but the other two weren't. So are we looking at it more like a wannabe member of the gang or group versus like, here's what I'm going to do to try to join your cult? Do you see what I mean? Like, this brings me back to I used to have somebody who came in the chat all the time and they would always talk to me about like their experience going through taking all these religious classes and so on and so forth. And they're like, if it had anything to do with this, it was definitely more of a newbie or almost like child's play, like somebody who didn't really know what they were doing. And then we talked about like the professor, like Professor Turco, and he also kind of says like, I can't say that it's not. He's like, it's more like somebody who didn't really know what they were doing. Like they more like they wanted to be. And they had the same like general idea. I keep going back to that because those types of the people who are, in my opinion, being more in like what do you call it? Like indicated as being the people involved aren't actually the ones who are involved in the Vinlanders necessarily. And now if you go to the interview with Patrick Westphal, he talks about that he pulled Johnny Messer's patch. And then we have the conversation with Brad Holder's ex-wife from the memorandum where she says that he stopped talking to Patrick Westphal about that time. So for some reason, Patrick Westphal got really mad at Brad Holder and got really mad at Johnny Messer, or the group of Vinlanders got really mad at these guys and had one's patch pulled and the other one was like banned all around the same time. I just think it's interesting. And True Crime Web, you made that comment earlier, and I was trying to say that earlier in my live, and then of course, I lost my temper a little bit, and then things went kind of sideways. But it's like we can't just ignore that there's more people and more people out here saying the same things. We can't ignore it. I think that's a great point. You don't have to change your opinion to reevaluate it. Just ask yourself, what if I got it wrong? What if there's something more? It's so important.
This is Richard Allen, and he's locked up. He looks guilty there, right? Obviously, he's presumed innocent, of course. But his pretrial detention has been very, very unusual. The normal course of things is you're charged with a crime, including murder, and you don't bond out, right? You're being held. You don't go to prison, you go to your county jail. And your county jail is filled with people waiting for their trials, people who've just been arrested, some people who've been sentenced to less serious crimes who are doing less than a year will be in your county jail. And they have facilities for lawyers to come in and talk to their clients, etc. But the pretrial detention of Richard Allen has been very different. Allen was first put into the Westerville Correctional Facility. Take a look. And
This comment made me chuckle because I think Mrs. Steve would probably agree with you.
He was put there first, following his request, at the request of the Carroll County Sheriff. So the sheriff of the county jail, where accused people normally are, the sheriff says, no, you got to move them to the state prison. That's bizarre. The defense filed multiple motions to have Richard Allen transferred, but they were all denied. The Department of Corrections then made the decision to move Richard Allen from Westerville to Wabash Valley Correctional in December, which is 200 miles south of Westerville Correctional. So it's far away from where everything's happening in this case. Plus the conditions therein, the allegations are that they're a little problematic, not normal, and not conducive to preparing for a big murder trial. So here's William Lebrato in his Court TV exclusive interview with our producer, Barbara McDonald, talking about Richard Allen's treatment behind bars.
We had visited him on several occasions, but driving 4 hours each way was difficult. And then at Wabash, they're not set up for visitation, so we were literally in a makeshift kitchen, and he was in a cell. We had to stand 6 feet back, and he's talking through the slot where they put the tray of food through, and that's not a very conducive way to have meaningful conversations with your client. I couldn't hand him documents. I couldn't have him sign documents. And, I'm sure it was very difficult for him to see the videos we were showing him through that slot. So, I'm not criticizing the Department of Corrections. I mean, for whatever reason, he was moved there. They're not set up for visitation, but you can't have I couldn't have been prepared for trial even in October if that was how all the visits were going to be conducted.
And you've handled death penalty cases. Have you ever had a pre-trial defendant treated the same way as Richard Allen?
Never. Never. In my 25 years or Sremen's 25 years have we ever had a murder client held pre-trial in a maximum security facility and then was transferred from one maximum security facility to another. Never.
And in your motion to transfer, you guys described him as being treated like Hannibal Lecter.
Particularly in Westville, at least we are allowed to sit face to face across the table from him. But the way he was handcuffed and to his chest, I mean, it looked extraordinarily uncomfortable. I couldn't shake his hand. We couldn't have him sign anything. I visited clients in prison on several occasions. That was different than anything I've ever experienced before.
And the way his hands were shackled were similar to how we see him in court, right?
Yes,
Where it's
exactly
like the tops of the hands are touching.
Yes.
And it's way up high on his chest.
It's connected to a box on his chest. I've never seen that. I've never seen anyone confined in that manner before.
So why? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. He is 5'6", 120, 130 pounds. He is not a physical threat to anyone. From all accounts, he's been a model citizen because he's locked down 23 hours a day. We told the confinement officers that we wanted him unhandcuffed so we could shake his hand and maybe have him sign documents, and they weren't budging on that. And it was sad because Westville allows visits, so his wife could come see him, and they just set up a visit with his mom and dad. He was transferred to Wabash 2 days before that visit. No, I don't think one had anything to do with the other. I just think it was bad timing and a coincidence. But in Wabash, you're not allowed any visits. Obviously, attorney, but no family members.
Wow.
All right, this is a little unusual. Barbara McDonald, let me ask you, the way this breaks down, right? So the defense is alleging that Odinus committed this murder. It was part of the investigation by part of that team that was investigating this, a faction of the team. And then he's moved from the normal county facility to a state prison facility, extremely unusual. And there are Odinus guards there.
There are. And not only Odinus guards there, but guards who are told stop wearing the patches, and then at least one of them comes to work with the tattoo on his face.
On his face. Mike King, this is very unusual. I mean, this is, what are your thoughts about transferring from a county facility to a state prison, number one, and then, you know, the way he's handcuffed and all the concerns, I guess, that the correctional facilities have for this pre-trial detainee?
I guess two things, Vinny, based on my experience. And the first is that I've seen inmates be moved from a county jail to a larger facility because of resources, the ability to have a better way of caring for them. When I hear this, I'm just shaking my head and wondering what on earth is so necessary in the control mechanisms that are going on. But I don't know what his behavior is otherwise. And they may have all kinds of documented reasons behind why they're having to do and take the course of action that they're taking. I also reflect on inmates that I've talked to over the years, and I've been in prison a lot of times, eating a lot of prison lasagna with killers. And I've heard them say, doing time in a county jail is a whole lot worse than doing it in a prison. And finally, I'd say I conducted a study for the Bureau of Justice where I interviewed serial killers across the United States. Every time I went in, I was able to be face to face with them, but I was law enforcement at the time. They might have their feet shackled to the floor. They might even have a chain and they're shackled, but they can at least move their hands up and down and there's limited mobility. What we're seeing here on the images, Vinny, is just odd to me that they even allowed that to happen. And I have to agree with the attorneys. How on earth could you do your job?
Yeah, you're preparing for a trial. And I mean, I get it. They believe they have very strong evidence, but he still is presumed innocent under our system of justice. Chris Todd, what are your thoughts? And this is just like, they're alleging an Odinus conspiracy, and then he goes from the normal county jail to a prison where there are Odinist guards or guards that practice heathenry, which is very close to Odinism. I don't know. Do you believe in these coincidences?
We have to remember the first judge recused himself and said that the community, there was like a bloodlust. And I can tell you from experiences with the podcasters, the sleuths, the journalists, everybody wants to get somebody on this case. These two girls were tortured and murdered, and someone's going to pay for it. I'm not big on the stuff surrounding intimidation and all that, and I get it, but someone's going to pay for this. And if he is guilty, we have to remember, because people are throwing up the signs, the world is watching, they're doing all this stuff at the crime scene, making videos. Let's not help this guy get off. If he is guilty, he needs to pay for this.
Yeah. And Barbara, how are the families doing?
You know, they're not talking publicly right now. They are honoring the gag order in the case. And I think they're just watching this prosecution, hoping that we get to a trial so that they can see for themselves what the evidence is, like the rest of us. But it's difficult, you know, every time these headlines come up, it's difficult on them. Life goes on. The friends of Abby and Libby have all grown up, and gone to college, and some of them have gotten married. Kelsey's had a baby. I mean, it's very difficult. They're never going to get over the loss of these absolutely beautiful girls who were doing nothing wrong out on the trails that day.
No, they were doing everything right. Like, this is what we want our children these days to do. Get off the computers, get outside. It's a beautiful day. Go see nature. Go, you know,
and go with somebody. You're safer if you're not alone.
Exactly.
And they were together.
Barbara McDonald, a great job. We look forward to more of your reports on all this. And thank you to Chris Todd and Mike King as well for your insight. We really do appreciate it. When we come back, folks, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour.
Okay. I don't know. I'm still just on the thing of on my point that I originally started this with, is that I just don't think it can be ignored. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to take away from that, is to look at it. Don't just ignore it like it's not there. Don't ignore it like there aren't multiple people. Like, this isn't just one guy that's saying this. We just have to look at it, take it in, try to understand it, see what fits, see what doesn't fit, and go from there. And they talk about him being in prison. I don't know. I know that we had talked on a different stream when I had a couple guests on, and we were talking about different cases where people were held in prison before they were held, you know, before they were found guilty. And the only ones I could come up with were federal prisons. Nothing to do with like a county jail. So I'm not sure. Back to my whole original statement, I don't know why they fight against him being there. You know, even McClelland in this last, you know, his response to the motion for transfer, he calls these new attorneys liars. They're all just lying. It's all lies. You know, everybody's just lying. And it's the same thing back and forth. This is lying. That's lying. This one's lying. But they're seeing the same things. So I just don't think we should ignore it. You know, and then I know there were some comments that were brought up on one of my last streams, and I see them here tonight, about that it's a safekeeping order for himself. It's against himself. It's so that he can't harm himself. Now, we don't know the statements that have been made. We don't know what statements he made. We know that when he was transferred from Carroll County to Westville to begin with, he supposedly made comments about self-harm. Then again, when he was transferred from Westville to Wabash, they now state he also made statements about self-harm. So they continuously put him on watch. I think it's weird that he's making these statements every time he's moved. So I think that's also interesting. But when this attorney, who was his attorney for almost 3 months, was asked why he's being held there, his answer was, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That was his answer. Now, it would be like, well, he's being held there because it's a safekeeping order and they're afraid that he's going to hurt himself. He said, I don't know. That was his attorney. Why is he saying, I don't know? Shouldn't he be the one that knows? Nobody was told, none of the attorneys apparently were even told why he was moved from Westville to Wabash where he can't have visits. I'm sorry, that's wild. Even if you guys think he's the right guy, this is all fucking wild. And I've never been to jail. I've never been to prison. So I have no answer on which one I believe is better or worse or whatever it is. I don't have an opinion on that. So maybe somebody who has been to both can give us an opinion, but I don't have that. I just can't. Whether you think it's better or worse, it's not typically the proper procedures that we see when we're covering cases like this. Seems that he's being held there to disrupt his representation. Don't you think they'd have to give a reason? And I know that the other side of that is in the order Judge Gold puts that the DOC has the right to move him whenever necessary, like whenever they deem it necessary. They have that right. But the Attorney General came in and had something to do with it with no reason. And it's not like it was overcrowding. It's not like it was any of those things. So what is it? I don't know if this is ready yet, but I think he's the right guy, but being treated very unfairly. It's like the judge knows. Let me unmute this.
What do we have? Oh,
Nope.
boy, that's Erica Stefanko.
No, she was found guilty.
Yeah.
FYI. I like Bob's theory that the state was shitting their pants that Rosie and Baldwin were ready to go to trial. It's not a bad theory. Is it the truth? I don't know, but I mean, everything they keep going and wanting to do things to push this trial out. Is anybody ready to go to damn trial? Because I'm ready to go to trial. I mean, I'm not going to be there, but you know what I mean. I'm ready for this to go to trial. Mike King actually said the branches just fell off the tree onto the girls. No, that is absolutely not true. I think that's the flip side of it. What is the purpose behind that? Yeah, we are ready. We're ready. We're ready for this to be just... I don't know. I'm curious. We'll never know now if they would have actually gone through and actually filed the speedy trial. We don't know that now. If they would have done it. They want this case gone. They have to blame it on someone to cover their own asses to the real peeps want to go down if this makes sense. Higher ups are the guilty ones. And why is the judge acting out of character? It's so wild. All right, I don't know. I think he's probably done. I didn't realize that we'd already been listening to this for so long. Mike King also said that the bullet is a 10 out of 10 piece of evidence. Well, I've seen a lot of experts say that, and I've seen a lot of experts say the opposite. So that's why I truly think that the bullet is going to come down. The bullet for me is if there really is no chain of custody, that's going to be a huge problem anyway. If there's only a picture of the bullet in the ground, and it said that it was in the ground, if it's in the ground, and then if there's a picture of the bullet at the lab, they're going to have a huge problem with chain of custody. And I know there's other people who are like, oh, of course there's chain of custody. But why didn't the defense attorneys see that? This is, again, like, they're just not going to go on there and be like, there's no chain of custody. Oops, here we have all the chain of custody. Did they get it later? Maybe. But in the depositions, they apparently asked, have you seen a chain of custody? And the answer is no, they hadn't to those specific investigators. Now, did they leave out investigators who said they had seen a chain of custody? I don't know that. If he's found, he will have a legal leg to stand on if he's found innocent. Yeah, I mean, he may even have one if he's found guilty, but it just won't be taken nearly as seriously, in my opinion. He did. Yes, he did. So, yeah, I think they might be done. I don't know. I'm just kind of letting it play just to see. There was a bullet that was sitting on Tobe Lesenby's desk. It doesn't. I think that that's kind of conflated into it's the same bullet, but I don't believe that. But there was a bullet that was sitting on his desk. But once again, people who shoot have certain things that they keep for memorabilia. We have the other bullet that they supposedly matched to is in the jewelry box on Richard Allen's desk or his dresser. Yeah, if no chain of custody, it's going to go. It's not even going to matter. Then if it does make it into the court, it's going to come down to the experts anyway. We can sit here and argue about it all day, whether it's good science or bad science, but ultimately it's going to be the two experts that get on the stand, and it's going to come down to, I always say this, the experts are going to be, the jury will think of the experts as who do I like better and who did I understand more. So if they don't get a good vibe from them, or if they talk too quote unquote science-y, then the jury isn't going to care as much. So it's going to come down to that if it makes it to trial. That's going to be the bottom line. You guys, Nobody knows whether Richard Allen is innocent or guilty. What we all know currently is he is innocent until proven guilty. I don't care whether you think that they are going for the right guy or not going for the right guy. There's gotta, at some point, you guys have to look at all of this information. This goes for the same thing of the people who think that Richard Allen isn't the guy and that he's being railroaded and he's a patsy. You can't ignore the bullet. You can't ignore the statements. You have to take all of these things into consideration to make a decision. You can't just be like, well, nope, that's bad. I don't like it, so I'm not going to talk about it. You're doing the same thing as the opposite side does when it's like, nope, Odinism, stupid theory, don't even talk about it. Take every piece of information, absorb it, understand it, and then see where you end up with it. I don't know why you guys all want to, don't fight with each other over it. I promise you, at the end of the day, your opinion, as much as you find your opinion important, or I find my opinion important, our opinions aren't going to matter. So just know that. Just think about that before you make a mean comment to somebody else. Just think about it. I'm telling you, try to be kind to people you're not normally kind to, and I'm telling you right now, your whole world is going to be different. But with that, I'm done. I'm going to wrap this up. I apologize for getting so pissed off earlier in the live. I normally don't get that mad, but I honestly just don't get why people want to fight when you don't know. We don't know. Take in everything. Gather as much information as you can. Talk to the people who think differently than you. Listen to what they have to say. So that's it. Once again, even if you don't like each other, I appreciate every single one of you guys for being here. I really, really do. It's extremely humbling that you guys even care to come and hang out here and that you care about what I have to say. I cannot express my gratitude to each and every one of you. And this is why I want you guys to just take a step back, look at the big picture, take in everything, and then move forward. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow. Probably depends on what this case brings. I'm still trying to catch up on the freaking Michelle Draconis case. But Delphi is Delphi. So here we go. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Go enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll talk to you soon.